The healthier you are, the more energy you're going to have throughout a day, the more you're going to be able to make most of that 24 hours that we all have. And it's the people who can make the most out of those 24 hours a day are the ones who will become the most successful, and that's just a fact.
I know me and you have spoke about it. One day when you do retire, you come back, we look at opening like an academy here for young players to go through with similar conditions, because it will increase the chances of the next Neil Robertson coming through for Australia, because it took a long time to get you. So it's hopefully we can get a few more going over there representing Australia, because yeah, it was not easy for our players. And obviously for a sport that's not as well known over here, we've got other sports. I know you're an avid sports, you love your cricket, you love your soccer, you love your football. Remember in 2010 you won the world title, they took you around the MCG with
Yeah,
you.
83,000 there was at the MCG. Yeah, it was Collingwood versus St Kilda. Yeah, it was. It was after I won the world title. It was like front page news over here, which was unbelievable. And I
That's where it
remember the
should be though.
headline. I remember the headline. It was like our world champion. That was such a proud moment. And Eddie Maguire sort of called me up. I was a guest on his radio show, and he said, "How about we get you in the back of a Lexus?" And of course, he's got to plug in the Lexus, who are the sponsors of Collingwood at the time. And he goes, "We'll get you in the back of a Lexus and parade the trophy around." And I thought, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And so, yeah, he stuck to it. I was a guest at the MCG when they were doing like the pre-match sort of lunch and everything, and you had all of them there, and very strict dress code. Dermot Brereton rocks up in like sort of denim shorts and like a t-shirt.
That's the spirit.
And the security guys didn't want to let him in, but they're like, "Oh, come on, Dermy." And so he just walks in, the only one there who wasn't like suited and booted in a tie. And I remember sort of going up and doing a bit of a speech in that. And I went down there with the World Championship trophy and paraded the trophy around sort of just before the game started. And to have that many people there, the MCG was amazing. That's just memories that I'll always remember. And so it was an amazing time, and it was great to have that kind of moment where sort of snooker was in the limelight for just that moment. And I'm always trying to do things to try and get the sport more popular. It is very tough, right? We have to be realistic that Australia is very much like an outdoor sort of sport. The weather's amazing all the time, so it does lend itself to your cricket, Aussie rules, and like soccer's growing in popularity a lot over here. Tennis and golf and stuff like that. It's tough to compete with those sports, but we shouldn't really set that goal of trying to compete with those. We just need to get the participation rate higher and sort of and work from there. I think that maybe one mistake has been in the last maybe 20 years or so is that we've tried to chase and find the next Neil Robertson now, rather than sort of build up a community of juniors.
So grassroots.
Yeah, build up grassroots to be a really good level, because I think that the Australian amateur snooker circuit is probably the best in the world, but the junior participation is really low. So that's where we need to sort of start from.
Well, that's an interesting point, because everything starts at grassroots. You mentioned doing a lot for the sport, and one of the things, obviously, your accolades are great, but what I'm most proud of is you're still humble. You're the exact same Neil that I knew as a kid. And I remember always laid back. I reckon a couple of the Australian titles, if I didn't book your flights and accommodation, we might not have made it. And I always remember what a humble kid, he goes in, plays, and he wins. But you've just recently come back here. They've asked you to do a charity event, which was very successful. There was about 300 people that came there, which was to raise money for junior snooker in Australia. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I planned to come back home for the first time in December since 2009, I think it was. So to go back a bit and how I was able to come this year is that usually our calendar is pretty tight in December, so I'd be
because you've got the Masters coming up.
Yeah, the Masters is always mid-January, and it's something I thought about for a couple of years. Is that for me to come back home over Christmas, I'd have to miss a couple of events in December. So I made the decision, quite a while ago, that okay, I'm just going to miss a couple of events because it's important to get back home. And so I missed a couple of events to make sure I could get back here. And a couple of people, I didn't really tell that many people. I only told a couple of people really, and but word got round very quick that I was coming back, and Aramani contacted me, someone who we grew up with, like playing juniors with. Aaron,
great player too.
And he said, "Would you be up for doing like an exhibition or something?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, no worries, like no problem." I think originally it was just meant to be maybe here or something, just like however many people can come in here, and then, but the interest grew and grew and grew, and then the size of the event became much bigger, and he then said that, look, there's a possibility to hire out an actual like venue in the city, and what do you think? And he asked me what my fee would be. I said I don't want any money for it. And he said, okay, well, how about whatever we raise for the event, after the cost of the venue hire, etc., that the money go towards like the junior development in Victoria. And I said, yeah, that'd be brilliant. That's perfect. And so the night was a huge success. There was a few sort of things that went on auction as well. I think there was a painting that a guy was doing a painting like on a canvas as I was doing the exhibition. He was doing that with me, and I think that sold for like $2,700 or something.
I had a couple silent bits from Queensland going on.
And someone bought a signed set of balls off me. That was like for maybe $1,500 or something. So as well as the ticket sales and everything on top, we raised a lot of money. And so the money hopefully will go towards sort of like helping the junior development. Maybe getting a couple of tables where you can get these sort of like set up tables where you can put into schools, and also just to help sort of pay for the travel and stuff of some of the juniors. And so that showed me that, there's a lot of interest here to try and get things going. So it's something that hopefully I can do, on a more regular basis, to try and raise the profile a bit, because like I say, we don't need to, get world champions now. I'm the only one who's kind of actually managed to do it. So we just need to get more juniors playing. Hopefully, I've got to meet like a lot of juniors now, which is great, and which hopefully, inspire them. I think that's really important that they see me in person. I think I've realised probably my responsibility to try and get back here a bit more, and try and make that space. The calendar is super tight, which makes it really difficult. But certainly from the night of the exhibition has certainly inspired me to come home more and to try and make more space for nights like that available.
Well, I have no doubt that you'll be welcomed with open arms, especially from all the snooker community, because not only seeing you, but it helps raise the profile of money. I have to ask you a question. You said that the ball throw is different when you go to the professional conditions. Coming back here, you played, I think you were telling me before off camera, 10 frames, you made 4 centuries and a ton of other breaks. How was it readjusting back to the Australian conditions? So you're playing on professional circuit now. The ball throw is different when you play side. You got to hit the ball a bit harder, you were saying. How easy was it to readjust back into the Australian conditions?
Well, it was a table that they set up. Was when I won the world title, they set up a table for me on the 88th floor, 87th floor of
For Eureka?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Because it's not many
and
of
I
that.
played 10 juniors, like one frame shooter against like 10 juniors. And they actually said it was going to be that exact same table, so that was quite nice. And I remember that table being really, really good. And so I went down to the exhibition, the venue during the day, to have like a practice for about an hour on the table to kind of see how the ball was throwing, how the cloth was playing. And that's probably a trait of like the best players in the world, that we can adjust very, very quickly to different scenarios. And something I've had to learn how to do. Traveling around the world, tables play different, especially in China, where you go to Shanghai, the
Is there
humidity is
big
very high.
variances on the pro circuit?
There are when you go to China when the humidity is really high, because the tables being inside, you wouldn't think that the atmosphere can get in, but they certainly do.
So they're slower?
Yeah, in Shanghai, the table's a bit slower. The side reacts different, these sorts of things. But that's why they try to get us traveling around a similar time of year where the climate is kind of is the same, where the humidity's low. So I was able to come here, and the atmosphere in the venue was perfect. It's a nice time of year as well, where it's not like too hot, not cold at all. So adjusting to the table was very easy, and the table played great. It was really good.
Which is good, because obviously it took a while from going back and forth, so you can go between conditions. I remember just before you turned pro, we're sitting in this venue, and we're talking about a 2002, you won the Lands panel, which was a big event here. 2004, and you also won the Fred Osborne the same year when you came here. So you started to win most events you were entering in Australia just before you took off. I think your first professional was in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That was the Grand Prix, yeah, and I became the first Australian to win a world ranking event. So yeah, that was unbelievable, really, to do that, and yeah, to think back when in 2002, when like I say, when I won the Lance panel, and then the week after that in Albury won the Fred Osborne. That the money that I won from that, like that kept me going for kind of like 6 months back then. And yeah, to think then in 2002 from that moment to just
To winning a
four
pro
years
event.
later to win a world ranking event, the Grand Prix as well, which was one of the biggest we had on. It was one of the BBC events, and I beat Ronnie O'Sullivan along the way, to win that title. Yeah, it's just crazy to
And
look
to
back on
think
it.
4 years later you win the professional world title on 210.
Yeah,
If you
and then
think about
another
it, they're not
4 years
big
after
spaces,
that.
are
Yeah,
they?
that's unbelievable. Yeah, so I've always been a quick learner. A good friend of mine, Joe Perry, has always said that when he first saw me play, he could see that I was really raw, but the rate that I improved and learned was incredible.
Willie Thorne said that too. He said when you went over, there was so many more juniors that were better than you,
Mm,
but he goes, there was something about him, so they could pop better. He goes, his long potting was better. I forget where I heard him say it. It was either an interview or something. He was talking about you. He said you just kept improving so fast, faster than everybody else. Because when you originally went there must have been a few juniors, and he said there was quite a few that were quite a bit better than you. And it goes back to what you were saying before. Don't compare. And they say that in business too. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 50.
yes,
It's a,
exactly.
it's a process. So if I'm looking at the best player in the world and I'm just starting, I should only look at improving step by step by step. It's like with every goal that you set as well.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was like alluding to, right? Is that I remember that, like, so and my dad always saying as well, like, if you're 15 and someone like Sean Murphy is 15, you can't compare you two
Been playing
together.
so much
I'm
longer.
playing on sort of kind of amateur conditions, even though the snooker tables in Australia are beautiful tables, but the conditions are just different. The cloths are different, the colour of the pockets is different, the practice partners
The level
available
of
are different.
competition are different.
Yeah, everything's all different. So don't compare yourself to someone else who is in a completely different position to you. So it was a great point you're making, comparing like chapter 1 to chapter 15 of people, yeah, it's just always something that I've always been able to do is to just focus on yourself improving. Yeah, Stephen Hendry also said that, after I won the world title, he said that there were other juniors who were considered to be further in line ahead of me, like, someone like Stephen Maguire or someone like
Ding
that.
Junhui at the
Ding
time.
Junhui, Stephen Maguire, they were probably the two sort of seen that were the ones that were probably going to win it. And as we stand now, neither of them have won it. So yeah, it's just the ability to kind of to be composed. You have to be very selfish as well with your time. You have to be really sort of focused and hungry to want to improve.
You were neck and neck with Ding for quite some time, and then you surpassed him really quick, as in the best. Because we said you're the best Australian to ever live, but your record suggests you're the best player outside the UK to ever played the game. And I remember you and Ding was neck and neck for quite some time, 10 ranking events each, 11, 11, 12, and then just shot through. And he went through a bit of a lull, but not compared to his own standards. How do you stay on the top of it, on top of any sport for so long?
Um, Me personally, I think that I am very good at forgetting about the previous season, whether it be good or bad. I think that you need to be able to reset everything mentally to then have that hunger to go again. I think a big trap that a lot of people fall into in any walk of life is that they they sort of like celebrate and reward themselves for far too long from previous successes. Where I think it's really important to kind of like, it's like, some people have almost been kind of not insulted in a way, but sort of really shocked at the fact that I can win a tournament, whereas 99% of the tour would go out and celebrate for a week. Whereas I win a tournament and I've kind of almost forgotten about it a couple of days later because I want to win the next one. And I think that applies to seasons. If I have a great season, as soon as my last ball is played and my season ends, wherever that may be, I need to just mentally reset and then go again. Forget about it. You want to have those mental memories of that store like the self belief. So if you are in a scenario where you're really you're far behind in a match, there's other matches where I've won where I've been several frames behind. It's always great to look back on those, knowing that you can do it.
I've done it, yeah.
But you don't want to sort of think about, I've currently won 4 or 5 tournaments and constantly be thinking about that during the next season. You've got to forget that. That's something that you can look back on when your career's over. You need to forget about those things because you need to keep building, because there's a lot of players who haven't had that success that are trying to take your success away
So
from
they're
you.
hungry. Kobe Bryant says that he heard one of his coaches say to him, never rest in the middle. In other words, keep going as hard as you can. And a famous quote, he was 2-0 up in the NBA Finals. And if you Google this, I watched this over and over. And they said, can we get a smile? He goes, why? The job's not done. It's a best of 7. And he won't even smile. He goes, the job's not done yet. He's literally 2-0 up in the finals, but he refuses to celebrate, show emotion, because he's got a job to do. And it was always that Mamba mentality about him, that I was always thinking to stay hungry. Even after there was a player that he just lost in the finals, he was practicing a week later, he's back in there as hard as he can to win the next championship. That level of hunger and that level of ability to switch on, I always watch him and say, wow, he was so gifted when it came to winning.
Yeah, that's right. And I think if you look at any sporting greats, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, so many others, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, they've always just had that hunger and desire to be the best that they can be.
Do you study them?
Yeah.
Mentality,
Yeah. Like the Last Dance documentary that Michael Jordan did was unbelievable. And I think that there's been a lot of sort of really sort of great sportsmen, great NBA players who said that they wish they had watched that when they were about 17 or 18, so that they could sort of understand what it takes to have that long success. Yeah, because I look at the greatest sort of snooker players as well, and none of them over celebrate or anything or go crazy. Fair enough if you win the world title or something that, you have a holiday with the family, that's normal, get it out of your system. But during a season, you never sort of stop to celebrate and stuff like that, because as soon as you do that, especially with the level of competition now, other players will quickly take your place. So
How do
you
you
have to stay on
celebrate
top
the
of
wins
it.
though? Because winning an event, and you've won, I think it was 17 years in a row, you won one professional event from 2016 onwards, something ridiculous. How do you celebrate those wins and say, well done, I've had a great year?
I don't know really. I mean, material things have never really mattered too much to me. I mean, I went through a phase like that where, I bought bought a really fast sports car and stuff and had a bit of fun with that for a little while. But it's,
Your mum blamed me for a lot of that, that, when you saw me.
but I've never really sort of been one to do that. I think I've got most of my happiness kind of like through family and stuff. So, I think that like watching my son play football on a weekend and things like this. And so the simplest of things can kind of like like, I don't know, like a gaming PC. I quite like my video games and stuff like that. So just little things like that, but some players like to treat themselves in other ways, where I've always stayed humble. I've always kept things pretty simple, and I don't really feel the need to kind of to treat myself to things after success. I think that the way I see it is if you're really successful, then you don't have to enter every tournament. So the way I treat myself is that maybe I may miss one event to have a couple of weeks of practice getting ready for the next major, but that means that from the previous success means that I can miss a smaller event to then watch my son play football over a weekend. My son Alexander plays football to a really high level.
He's a goalkeeper.
Yeah. I've seen him play against like Premier League teams. I've seen him play against Chelsea and West Ham and stuff. So that's been my reward for having the success. I've missed a smaller event somewhere else in the world that I didn't have to go to because of my ranking position. So that was my reward, that I got to see him play football over the weekend.
You're also a big Chelsea supporter as well.
Yeah.
I remember in 2015, I don't know much about soccer, not many sports other than snooker and fighting. I don't know much about. And you had me in the players' room, and you do remember you said to me, "Do you know who that is beside you?" And John Terry was there.
John Terry,
and I had no idea who it was.
Chelsea legend, one of the greatest defenders of all time in the world. Yeah,
there was a couple in the players thing. You're asking me. I recognised Jimmy White. I think it was about it. But there's a few players because there was a professional another soccer player there. There was one of the Rolling Stones used to go to watch Jimmy.
Ronnie Wood.
Ronnie, because a lot of them watch snooker, aren't they? A lot of them play snooker, watch snooker.
Yeah, I mean, snooker's like a hugely popular sport.
In the UK, it's massive.
Yeah,
we went to Harrods together, and quite a few people came up to you and stopped you.
Yeah,
said hello?
it's I come back to Australia and sort of almost unknown. I wouldn't say unknown, but like sort of certainly not as popular as the footy players and stuff
What's
like that.
China
But
like?
well, I go to China, I get mobbed in the street. It's a completely different world. So, but it's nice though. It's nice to. I don't crave fame or anything like that. But I think that when someone stops you for a selfie, it's a nice thing.
It's
It's
recognition for
Yeah,
doing
it's
so good in
recognition,
sport.
and
You've always been simple and humble. I get that part,
mm,
but to excel so well in a sport and someone acknowledge it, surely that's got to be a good feeling.
yeah, it is. I mean, the best feeling that I get is when like a mum or a dad will come up to me and saying that my son is really inspired by you. So whether they're a young sort of snooker player coming through, or they're a young sort of like a footballer, or they play
Athlete.
tennis or anything, they say that I'm a big inspiration to them. So that's like job done from my point of view. That's what inspires me to get better and to keep having the success is also to my kids as well. To show an example to them. Like there's been many sort of tournaments that I've played in, and where I'd be down and out in a match, and I'm thinking, well, if I can come back and win this, it might inspire Alexander when he's playing football or whatever he chooses to do in life, that he can look back and think, well, Dad was in this really bad situation
And
and
he
he
came
came
back.
through it, so I can. And so I think that about all kids around the world that might be watching me, and that's why it's important to, I think, behave really well, and to and to show that to kids, is that for them to learn off.
I like that, and I think was it maybe in the Last Dance, or no, it was actually Kobe's wife that said even if he's unwell, he'd always go out and play because there was some kid in the stand that would have spent all his money sitting in the nosebleeds to watch him and to be inspired. I remember going back to our snooker junior days, it was really fun. We used to actually play in shopping centers. They used to put a snooker table in shopping centers. You remember
Yeah,
that?
that's right. Yeah, but there'd always be like a couple hundred people watching all the time, sort of stop by and like
People
watching the
it
snooker and
would
stuff.
show our sport to different areas that wasn't accessing, and there'll always be good stories. I remember we played at Chatston Shopping Centre. We played in different shopping centres for the Australian titles.
Yeah, Eastlands as well in Victoria. They had the Australian 8 Ball. One kind of funny story from that is that I remember one of the juniors was playing. It was Australian 8 Ball Championships, where all the sort of different states come together, and I remember there was like a naughty kid from a couple of stories up launched a chocolate sundae on one of the one of the players. The sundae just went all over his back and all over the table. It was just it was funny to see it, but
As
yeah, I
long as
don't
you're
know.
not the player, it's
Yeah,
good.
that's right.
But no, that was good. So obviously, you've achieved a lot in the sport. What's the next goal for yourself?
The next goal is to try and just keep getting better. The whole tour is getting better all the time. The level of competition's never been tougher than what it is. It's been an era of the sport, which has been a real golden era, where we've got like the greatest players of all time still competing and still playing at the very best of their game. The fact I've been able to be a part of that and be highly successful during that period has been incredible. So yeah, just keep getting better as a player. Try and win more titles. Love to be a multiple world champion. It's something that's been a big goal of mine, and so that's like the next big target is
You'll
is
still
is,
do it.
is
Hopefully
more world
next year when I
titles.
come to watch the world title, you win that. But you've still got quite a few more cracks at it. You've won so many. But I want to ask you, what was one of the lowest points of your career, and how did you come back from that? Was it a match? Was it a time? Was it financial? Because I did read, and obviously I know you well. So for the people, when you once went to England, you borrowed a vest and you had like 200 pounds in your pocket or something of that nature.
Yeah, that was after I won the world under 21. So I remember saving. I had like, I don't know, yeah, I had like about £500 in cash left over from that, um, when we went to Cambridge in 2003, it was myself, Steve Misford, who qualified through winning the World Amateur Championship in 2002, and Joel Younger, who was already on the tour. And I remember I didn't have a waistcoat, and so Joel gave me one of his spare ones. So I was using Joel's waistcoat for that season. And yeah, I remember, looking back then, I remember I used to save like, any coin. I don't know if even there was a 5 pence coin on the ground, I'd be diving on it to try and put it in my kick. So times have certainly changed since then. But I
You
think
haven't changed though.
no, I haven't changed at all. No, I haven't changed at all. I think that I think when you go through those periods of having to do it really tough, that's what sort of really makes you stronger as a person. You know, you're sort of looking back at that. I think that one thing I've been able to do very well is that realize there's always someone far worse off than you around the world. And so I think that when you kind of realize that, and it doesn't matter how bad your position may be, there's always someone a lot worse off than you. And that makes you quickly sort of
Snap out of
switch
it.
and change into gear and then and focus on the task at hand.
Being humble is important because I remember the times I remember we're at my parents' house and we're actually playing that table at the end. There's actually my old table, my parents. We wake up, we're that keen. We played a best of 35 in a day. So that's pretty insane. Two juniors playing first to 18 in snooker, not pool. We were there for I don't know how many hours we would have played for.
Yeah, a long time, and but that was like, I remember playing at your house, and there was a part in the room where it was too short, and so we'd have to get like a cue that was like half the length.
The Seinfeld
Just
episode.
yeah, that's right, yeah, out of that Seinfeld episode. So yeah, no, but they were great times. I was just when we just purely loved the game, best out of 35 because that's obviously what they play in the final of the world title. So yeah, but they were
You went on
amazing
to play a few
memories.
best of 35s and win it. So that's amazing. We were dreaming of them as kids. You actually went on to play a final of that nature and actually win it. So best of 35. Yeah, but in the final, that's across 2 days and 4 sessions. I think we might have played it straight. Went
Yeah,
through it.
maybe. Yeah. But without the sort of like the intervals and stuff, and playing at God knows what time. Yeah, no, it was amazing. Yeah, amazing memories. Sort of like looking back at it and that, and the junior days I remember really well. A lot of laughs as well, and and it's great to see you sort of have the success you've had as well, and the two of us together.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember I was doing snooker and fighting, and then I focused just on work. You're a very healthy guy, Neil, and I think that's also. I think we mentioned longevity before. Looking back, I think personally your technique's so sound that it's helped you, but also your health. You're very, very healthy as well. And a lot of people that they're focusing in sports that have longevity, they're really like you look at your Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo is very, very focused on his health. Physical health translates to mental health. Do you think that's played a major factor in the longevity of your career and being so high in the
Oh
rankings?
yeah, absolutely. That's another thing as well. You look at sort of the other great sort of sporting people we have in the world, and you look at what they do, and they work just as hard, kind of like off the field or off the table, on their physical health, their mental health, and always making sure the preparation is just absolutely spot on. And sport has changed a lot over the years. I remember going back watching. Some of the snooker tournaments in the 80s where the players could sit in the chair and sort of like light up a cigarette or
Drink
have
beer.
a pint of a beer or something like that. It's just absolutely crazy. You just never see that today. So the sport has changed massively since, and I think Ronnie's been a massive pioneer in that as well. The amount of running he does, physically just looks after himself amazingly well. He's incredibly fit, and he's been an inspiration for many others to do the same.
And you look at the resurgence, even Mark Allen really winning all these events has become a lot healthier recently as well. So a lot of the players that are healthier are seemingly having longer careers as well.
Yeah, and that's just true to life, right? If you want to be highly successful, the healthier you are, the more energy you're going to have throughout a day, the more you're going to be able to make most of that 24 hours that we all have. And it's the people who can make the most out of those 24 hours a day are the ones who will become the most successful, and that's just a fact.
Mayweather talks a lot about that as well. The blocks that you have in your day, how much is to sleep, how much is to train, and with your leftover hours, what do you do with that? That's the difference you focus on. If you've got 8 hours to train, 8 hours to sleep, 4 hours to eat, whatever it may be, what do you do in those 4 hours to make you much better at what you do? And he's 50 and I was a boxer. So Neil, I can sit here and talk for hours and hours about snooker and sport. You thank you very much for being on the show. Are you ready for our quick fire questions?
Yep, sure.
Excellent. iPhone or Android?
iPhone,
First thing you think of when you wake up?
making a coffee.
Tell us something no one knows about you.
I was part of a top 10 world guild in World of Warcraft.
Do you have any tattoos?
No, I don't know.
What's your favorite type of movie?
Whew, sci-fi.
If someone was to play you in a movie, who would cast you? Which would the actor be?
Who would the actor be? I don't know, Chris Hemsworth in like a superhero movie.
Uh, who is your hero and why?
My hero and why? Wow. Whew. To name one, I think it was always Michael Jordan as a kid, and the Last Dance documentary kind of further
Reconfirmed
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Favorite food?
Favorite foods, Italian,
Favorite color?
blue.
Worst or best job? Worst and best job.
Worst and best job. Best job, I guess, being professional sportsman. Worst job, I don't know. Well, I guess I experienced that when I used to work Q Sports in the nightclub 4 nights a week.
The back of the
Rolling up the urinal mats at the end of the night was at 4 or 5 a.m. That was a pretty bad one.
Well, you've come a long way. Who's been the most influential person in your life?
Have to be parents.
What's your go-to stress technique? So if you're really stressed, what's the one technique you go to just to calm you down?
Jeez, that's the thing. I don't get stressed at all. People, and it drives people nuts.
I used to stress out for you. I think that was your secret. So you don't need to.
I don't know. I don't get stressed. Yeah,
Okay. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
it's got to be fly.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Call or text?
Oh, text for sure.
Okay, I know a few of these ones, but I have to ask them. Cardio or weights?
Cardio.
Beef or chicken?
Well, I don't eat meat, so we'll lock in vegan chicken.
Ronaldo or Messi?
Messi.
This one's a tough. Who's your favorite fighter?
Fighter.
You're not massive in fighting, but who would be your
No,
favorite
not
fighter?
really. I think Tyson Fury actually. Yeah, his story has been just incredible.
He's 6'9". You know, he's the heaviest world champion ever in history.
Oh wow, okay.
No one's
Didn't
ever,
know
and
that.
he's 6'9" as well. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Morning or night?
Always been a night owl.
If you could give yourself one piece of advice as a 20-year-old Neil, what would you say to yourself?
I feel as though every kind of mistake I've made at that point, I've always learned from and become better from that experience. So it might be something like, I think maybe try and do more to stay in constant contact with family in Australia.
Guess it's hard with all your professional commitments. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
10.
Right. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Remember, if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe and like for more episodes of the podcast, Relentless Life on Your Turn. Thanks, Neil.
No worries, Chris.